Close your eyes and forget the Hollywood myths. Language did not strike humanity like a sudden, magical lightning bolt. It was not a serendipitous morning where a genius spoke and the tribe blindly followed. Evolution does not deal in cheap miracles. It is a grinding machine of time, demanding a heavy toll across millions of generations. Rewind the clock. 7 million years ago, the African savanna. It is not a silent world. It is deafening, yet entirely empty of meaning. The dry wind howling through giant baobab trees, the deep roars of shadowy apex predators, and the frantic, instinctual shrieks of ancient ancestors fleeing for survival. Sound was everywhere, woven into the tall grass, but words did not exist. So how did a fragile species, constantly hunted and cornered, rise to conquer the earth, using nothing but vibrations in their throat? Look around you today. We are surrounded by billions, yet we have never been more silent. How did we get here? To understand the weight of a word, we must look at a deadly biological flaw. Did you know that humans are the only mammals on Earth that frequently risk choking to death just by eating? For our ancient ancestors to see over the tall savanna grass, they had to stand up. That single, wobbly step on two legs triggered an anatomical chain reaction. The spine shifted from a horizontal bow to a vertical column. The skull balanced on top. But the price for standing tall was the descent of the larynx, the voice box. In a chimpanzee, the larynx sits high. They can breathe and swallow at the exact same time. In you, it dropped deep into the throat, creating a dangerous biological crossroads. Every time you swallow a sip of water, a tiny flap must close with absolute precision. One tiny neurological error, and provisions fall into your lungs. A fatal trap. Why would evolution force such a risky design upon us? Because the massive empty space left behind became an unparalleled resonance chamber. We gambled our very lives for the biological hardware to create complex sounds. The instrument was finally built. The throat was ready, yet for millions of years we remained trapped in grunts. Why? 2.5 million years ago, ancient ancestors struck stone to shape tools. Their hands were nimble, their brains expanding, yet they were trapped in silence. Fast forward to Homo erectus. They mastered fire and walked out of Africa. They stood tall, illuminated by the flames, but faced an invisible biological wall. To speak a long sentence, you do not release all your air at once. You ration it, breaking a single breath into dozens of delicate syllables. It is an intricate neurological dance. But the ancient spine tells a different story. Fossil evidence shows the nerve canal in their chest was simply too narrow. They lacked the complex wiring to control their diaphragm. Their chest was a prison. They could roar with immense power to intimidate, but weaving that air into melodic words was physically impossible. Communication was a dance of desperation, intense stares and wild gestures. The physical hardware was powerful, but the internal wiring was incomplete. So, when would the crucial neurological upgrade finally arrive? The answer lies hidden deep within the cold, frozen mountains of Europe. The answer lies not in the throat, but hidden deep inside the skull. In a dark cave in Spain, scientists scanned the tiny ear bones of ancient ancestors. They discovered something unbelievable. The structure of their middle ear had transformed. It was perfectly tuned to a very specific frequency, the exact pitch of human consonants. While animal ears act as survival alarms, tuning into rustling leaves or predator growls, the human ear evolved inward. It was redesigned specifically to listen to each other. Our survival ears became social ears. We were biologically preparing for conversation, but physical changes were not enough. A microscopic miracle had to happen. Deep inside the nucleus of our cells, a specific genetic switch flickered to life. It is known as the FOXP2 gene, the master controller of fine motor skills in speech. This invisible spark allowed the brain to coordinate the lips, tongue, and breath flawlessly. The Neanderthals had it. We had it. The grand biological machine was finally complete. Millions of years of grueling survival had forged the perfect hardware. But hardware is useless without an operating system. So how did humanity download the software of meaning? The very first word ever spoken by a human was likely a fake roar. To warn others without shouting, ancient hunters mimicked the low growl of the beast they feared. This is onomatopoeia, sound directly imitating nature. Even birds can do this. Consider the famous African gray parrot. They mimic environmental sounds to navigate their surroundings and fit in. But mimicking the wind or a falling rock has a fatal limitation. How do you imitate the sound of tomorrow or the sound of loyalty? To build a true language, humanity had to make a massive leap into abstract thought. We call it arbitrariness. The collective agreement of a tribe that a completely meaningless sound somehow represents a physical object. The moment they agreed that an empty vibration meant caution, we broke the chains of nature and built our own system of symbols. Yet, even with these new abstract words, our ancestors were still trapped. Their conversations were still chained entirely to the physical present. We still lack the most profound cognitive weapon of all. The greatest secret of language does not lie in the throat, it lies in the eyes. Look closely at an animal, a wolf, an ape. Their eyes are entirely dark. Dark eyes are the perfect camouflage, hiding where they look from predators and rivals. But evolution stripped away this armor in humans, revealing a massive, bright, white sclera. We are biologically exposed. Anyone can see exactly where our attention is focused. Why risk survival for this? Because nature wanted us to share our minds openly. A cat may cry out for provisions, but it will never point at a butterfly just to share the experience. But a human young one will point at a bird and immediately look back into their mother's eyes. They are silently asking, "Are you seeing what I am seeing? Are we sharing this reality?" Psychologists call this joint attention, the fertile soil where language grows. If we cannot align our minds on a shared object, spoken words will vanish into nothing. Ancient humans use this silent gaze, a shared look, a profound mutual understanding. Today we sit shoulder to shoulder, bathed in the blue glow of endless information, yet our eyes rarely meet. The silent biological bridge is broken. We established this deep mind connection, but how did it explode into a world-dominating force? 70,000 years ago, a silent cognitive explosion rewired our brains. We developed recursion, the ability to embed stories within stories, mapping complex social webs. This birthed an ultimate survival tool, gossip. Gossip was not for entertainment. It was the glue for social control, tracking allies and rivals. Through whispers, we expanded our tribes to a biological limit of 150 individuals. But the true superpower of this revolution was far more profound. It was the birth of the greatest lie, the ability to create things that do not exist. Fiction. Picture an ancient elder spinning a tale of a great invisible serpent guarding the mountain. No one had seen it, yet hundreds nodded in collective, absolute belief. This shared myth shattered biological limits. It bound thousands of strangers under unseen laws. Today, we no longer worship the serpent, but we worship pieces of printed paper and digital numbers. Money, borders, laws, they are all modern myths, powered solely by collective imagination. We used fiction to unite the planet and organize millions. But what happens when a species armed with fiction marches into the freezing reality of a completely different human species? 60,000 years ago, Sapiens stepped out of Africa and into Ice Age Europe, a frozen, alien world already ruled by a magnificent brother species, the Neanderthals. Picture the tense encounter at the mouth of a dark cave. Two distinct human lineages face to face. There was no translator, no shared culture. The line between conflict and peace was paper thin. A sapiens hunter cautiously raises an empty hand, an offering of peace. The Neanderthal, with a larger brain and highly tuned ears, processes the gesture. They lock eyes. Joint attention activates. Through broken sounds and gestures, a pidgin language is born. A crude, immediate bridge of communication focused purely on survival. You, fire, me, provisions. Did it work? Look no further than your own bloodstream. The DNA of billions of modern humans contains traces of the Neanderthal. They did not just compete, they communicated, shared fires, and merged their bloodlines. The Neanderthals physically faded away, leaving sapiens as the sole rulers of the planet. But as tribes grew into massive empires, a new catastrophic crisis emerged. The biological hard drive of the human brain reached its absolute limit. Spoken words evaporated instantly. Our memories were overflowing. The system was about to collapse. Spoken language is a proud, fleeting ghost. It vanishes the moment it leaves your lips. Songs of victory and vital laws were buried when the elders passed into memory. To survive the collapse of memory, humanity needed a new miracle. We had to trap sound, to freeze it, to imprison it in physical space. Deep inside the dark, damp caves of Europe, 40,000 years ago, our ancestors did not just paint magnificent beasts. They created a code. Hidden beside the majestic bowls were exactly 32 geometric symbols. Spirals, lines, and dots, repeated identically across thousands of miles and generations. This was not random art. It was a cross-continental network, the first internet. By agreeing on the meaning of these marks, they externalized memory itself. The speaker could fade away, but the ideas survived on the stone wall. These red dots evolved into clay tablets, then scrolls, and eventually into the invisible binary codes traveling through deep ocean cables today. We successfully conquered the absolute power of time. The miracle was achieved. But in this new digital era, what did we lose? Now take a step back and view this epic 7 million year journey. From fragile ancestors risking their very breath on the wild savanna, to locking eyes in the freezing blizzards of the Ice Age to forge an alliance. From spinning invisible myths by the firelight to unite thousands, to pressing red clay against cold stone, defying the erasure of time. Every drop of sweat, every desperate attempt to connect served one singular, profound purpose: the fierce desire to be understood. Today, amidst the relentless rush of the modern world, you pull a glowing rectangle from your pocket and quickly type a message. Hey, how are you? Let us grab a coffee. That mundane, unconscious swipe of a finger carries the crushing weight of millions of years of biological sacrifice. A legacy forged in survival, now compressed into a fleeting digital blip. You inherited the universe's greatest miracle of connection. So, what profound truth will you choose to share today?